The DacryoCath irrigating lacrimal balloon catheter is the most advanced technology in lacrimal balloon catheters. The DacryoCath has an irrigating channel that aids in positioning the balloon catheter in the lacrimal system. Irrigation through the DacryoCath helps to confirm that the catheter has penetrated all obstructions and entered the nasal cavity. The DacryoCath is the same size as a probe. It feels and handles like a probe. The physician can apply his or her experience with probing when using the DacryoCath. The soft nylon balloon reduces trauma to the lacrimal tissues. DacryoCath is less expensive than other balloon catheters.
This is the DacryoCath irrigating lacrimal balloon catheter. It has on the proximal end a Y-shaped hub. The port with the red ring is the inflation port, and the other port is the irrigation port. So later, when we connect the balloon catheter, we'll connect it to the inflation port, and irrigating will be through the irrigation port. The distal end of the balloon catheter comes with a sheath, and we're going to pull the sheath off. There's a marking 10 millimeters from the balloon, and a marking 15 millimeters from the balloon. The balloon itself is the same size as a probe, so it acts like a probe, it feels like a probe, and you can use your experience with probing when using the DacryoCath. Prior to using the DacryoCath, at the beginning of the procedure, and you get it out of the package, you want to irrigate with fluorescein stained fluid in a 5 or 12 cc syringe through the irrigation port. And you want to feel how freely the fluid flows through. And you want to lock that feel in your mind, because later we're going to need to use that as a reference point. So you connect the syringe to the irrigation port and squirt fluorescein stained fluid through. See how easily that fluid squirts through that irrigation port. So, all right, now we've completed our pre-surgical maneuvers, and we'll use the fluorescein again after the balloon catheter is in the lacrimal system. All right, this is the inflator, and it has a gauge which tells the atmospheres. When we inflate the balloon, we want to go to 8 atmospheres of pressure. There is a tubing that connects to the inflation port of the balloon catheter after it's in the lacrimal system. There's a handle on the proximal end of the balloon. It comes with this red stopper here, so you want to remove that before you use it. This is the lever, and here's the handle. When you squeeze this lever, this becomes a giant syringe, and you can just suction that back. So you put that in some water, squeeze the lever, and pull all the way back, far back as you can. Turn it upright to get the air out of this, and push, get all the air bubbles out. Now when you let go of the lever, this becomes an inflator. And we increase the pressure after this is connected with the hose to the balloon catheter. We increase the pressure by turning this handle. And the increased pressure will be reflected here. And we'll demonstrate that in a few minutes when we start the procedure. So we have a 1/2 by 3 neurosurgical cottonoid in a bayonet forceps. And we're going to use this to pack the nose. We use neosynephrine 1/4% nose spray. Okay. We're soaking this with the neosynephrine. All right, good. Okay, that's good. So we're going to insert the 1/2 by 3 neurosurgical cottonoid in the nose. We're going to go along the floor of the nose, so this contacts the inferior turbinate. And it'll vasoconstrict that inferior turbinate and give us a little bit more room to work with. We'll pull this out later. So we bring our punctal dilator in. Let's see about our upper puncta. We'll dilate that also. Put the 1 and 2 probe. And we're going to slightly dilate the canaliculi. 000 probe. And we're going to probe in the usual fashion. So bring this through here. And then we're going to probe. All right. So we have our probe in place. First I'll pull the cottonoid out. And then we want to feel metal on metal. I'm feeling the other probe in there. See the probe move. So we have metal on metal. So we're now going to remove the probe. So we're going to take our deflated balloon catheter. So we have some ointment here. We're going to lubricate the end of this. That's an important factor. And the DacryoCath feels like a probe, so when you're using it, just like you're using that same probe. Let me have the Adsons. So we're going to insert this just like we did the probe. And that's a lot of ointment there. Alright, so we push that right down. So it went in exactly like the probe. It feels like a probe. It's just like doing a probing. We're going to irrigate with our fluorescein stained fluid through the irrigation port. And if we've penetrated all the obstructions and reached the nasal cavity, we should be able to suction that fluorescein fluid out very easily. And we should feel that same free flow of fluorescein fluid through the system that we felt when we checked it prior to use. So let's have this number 8 soft suction catheter. So we have a number 8 soft suction catheter. We're going to insert that into the nose. All right, now what I'll have you do, Larry, is kind of go back and forth when I irrigate. We're going to connect our fluorescein stained fluid in the syringe to the irrigation port, and we're going to irrigate through. There it goes. See the fluorescein coming through the suction? See that fluorescein? That means we're in the cavity. We're in the nasal cavity. We've penetrated all the obstructions. We don't have a false passage. So that's a very nice demonstration of fluorescein being suctioned out, and I can irrigate through very easily. So those confirm that. Now if when you do this you're not suctioning out fluorescein, or you're not irrigating through freely, then you haven't penetrated all the obstructions and reached the nasal cavity, or you have a false passage. Remember, these older kids or probing failures who we need the balloon catheter for often have multiple obstructions or even proximal sac duct junction obstructions. The other important thing is make sure your fluorescein fluid is very densely stained. That way you can see it easily. If it's lightly stained, it's much harder to see when it suctions out. Okay, let me have the inflator. We're going to connect the tube on our inflator to the inflation port. Larry, if you'll hold this right there. Okay, and I'm going to connect this to the inflation port. And now we've released this lever, so when I turn this, it will inflate. We're going to go up to 8 atmospheres of pressure. And this will inflate the balloon to 8 atmospheres. So we'll turn this, and we're going to go all the way up to 8 atmospheres. And we're going to do this for 90 seconds. So we're going to do a 90-second inflation. You can see this is connected to the inflation port. See here. There's our gauge at 8 atmospheres for 90 seconds. Now this is the inflation and dilation of the distal nasolacrimal duct. since we push the balloon catheter all the way to the nasal floor. Okay, now we're going to deflate by pulling this lever here, and you'll notice it deflates. We go down to 0. And we reposition a little bit, just push it down, make sure it's still all the way to the nasal floor. And then we've released the lever, and we're going to inflate again to 8 atmospheres, this time for 60 seconds. So we'll do this for 60 seconds. Now it's 60 seconds on this second inflation. So I'm going to pull this lever and deflate, and it goes to 0. Now we want to pull the balloon more proximally such that it lies within the nasolacrimal duct and in the lacrimal sac, because some of these older kids or probing failures have obstructions in the sac duct junction. So you'll see we're going to pull this out, and we want you see it, there's our 10 millimeter mark. Let me have one more Q-tip. So you'll see our 2 marks. This is our 15 millimeter mark here. All right, so you see our closer 10 millimeter mark. Now the 10 millimeter mark is 5 millimeters from the punctum. And that tells me that the balloon is in the lacrimal sac extending into the nasolacrimal duct, because it's 5 millimeters from the punctum to the lacrimal sac. And the reason that distance is short is that when the balloon catheter is in the system, the canaliculus is like an accordion and becomes much shorter. So you want your punctum 5 millimeters from this mark here. So we're going to go ahead and inflate again to 8 atmospheres for 90 seconds. All right, we're going to turn this, go up to 8 atmospheres again for 90 seconds. All right, so now I'm going to deflate, pull the lever, and it goes to 0. I'll recheck our positioning, make sure it's just where I want it to be. And then we'll do another inflation to 8 atmospheres for 60 seconds. Okay, 60 seconds is up. We're going to deflate. So now we're going to disconnect the inflation device tubing. Now, prior to removal, the fluid does not all passively come out of the balloon, so we need to suction it out. The inflation device is also a marvelous deflation device. So the first thing we're going to do is pull the lever, squirt out all the fluid. Then we're going to reconnect, hold this right here, the inflation device, which is now the deflation device, to our inflation port. And we're going to, let me hold that right there. Oh, I got it. Okay. Now we're going to pull the lever, and we're going to suction back all the way and hold. And we can let go, and that's constantly deflating the fluid out. And you leave that for about 10 seconds. And then Larry, hold this again. And while it's still deflating, we disconnect from the inflation device. Then we're going to pull the lever like a syringe, squirt out all the fluid and air. And this is the last time we will connect to the inflation port. And this time, pull back all the way, let go. It's suctioning. And then while it's suctioning, we will pull this out of the system. So we've removed the balloon catheter from the lacrimal system. Okay. So we have a syringe with a little cannula on the end. You can see here, I'm just going to irrigate through. And we should be recovering a bunch of that in the nose. It's a very soft cannula. We'll slip that in. And we should be getting, this should irrigate through easily. And we should capture this. So you can see how it's suctioned out very nicely, irrigates through very easily, which means we have a nice patent lacrimal system. And our procedure is completed.